Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a brand new video, or maybe it's your first time here. I'm not gonna really do a call to action and say subscribe, whatever. If you choose to, then so be it. If you don't, then thanks for watching. This video, I'm really just gonna jump into all of my thoughts and what I'm feeling, because honestly, as a content creator, I haven't been able to create content because I haven't been feeling good. If you are not living under a rock, then you're probably feeling what I'm feeling. And if you are Black like I am, then you're definitely feeling what I'm feeling. I just want to start by saying, I don't even know what I'm gonna title this video, but I was in the 3rd grade when I realized that something wasn't right. So my family was living in Connecticut. We moved back to North Carolina. For those of you who have been rocking with me, who've been here, you guys know I told you before, I was born in North Carolina. I've went to 13 different schools in my life, so I've been here, there, and some everywhere, okay? So we went back down to North Carolina, and I was in this class, and I used to do my work really quick. But, you know, the first thing that I realized was that the education was definitely slower than I had experienced in Connecticut. The second thing that I realized was that I was in an all Black class. However, my school was not an all Black school. So I would go home and I would tell my mom about it. I would tell my aunt, because at that time we had moved from Connecticut to North Carolina. We were living with my aunt. And I'll never forget, my mom and my aunt came in to observe the class. My mom was really taken back because there was a boy in my class that did not know how to spell his name in the 3rd grade. There was another boy who, when he wrote his letters, they were backwards. And then the third thing was that I had been complaining to my mom that I would finish my work so quick that the teacher had me helping other students. So when she observed the class, addressed everything, they then removed me from this all Black class, and they put me in this group with other children, other Black children, and we would work on maps like all day. This went on for like a week, and then I made that complaint again to my mom, because again, knowing something was not right. So then they moved me out of the map class, if you will, and I was placed into an all-white class, and I was the only Black student. Again, being in the 3rd grade, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I just know something ain't right, because when I was in Connecticut, my class was a very mixed class. My school was very diverse. The classrooms were diverse. So that was my first dose of how Black people were treated in the South. So enough was enough. My family moved from North Carolina back to Connecticut, and things went back to what I called normal. You know, diverse classrooms, diverse friendships. Some of my closest friends look nothing like me. And when choosing friends, it's never been, okay, I need a Black friend. It's been, how does this person treat me? How do we get along? How do we mesh? How do we gel? And some of my closest friends, y'all, look nothing like me. And I don't mean she got some braids, I got a weave. No, like, some of my closest friends are Asian. Some of my closest friends have been Caucasian. It's never mattered. It's only mattered about their heart, who they were inside. But unfortunately, we live in a world where, because I'm Black, I have a strike. Then I'm a lesbian on top of that, so I got 2 strikes. But hold up, because they say 3 strikes, you're out. It's really frustrating, because Black lives matter. And we're not saying all lives don't matter, but what we're saying is all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. I just want to fast forward, because I want to talk about what it has been like as a Black flight attendant, especially as a Black flight attendant who came from being a nanny, who worked in households with Caucasian families, and I was treated with the utmost respect, just really like a family member. Like, honestly, I have worked in homes where people have treated me better than my own family. So I don't come from a mindset of thinking, oh, all Caucasian people are bad, oh, they're all out to get me. Or I don't think like that. The way that I was really raised to know that I'm always going to have to work a little bit harder in life. Why? Because of the color of my skin. If you are watching this video and you're not a Black person, I'm gonna tell y'all straight up, the way that our parents raise us, we are raised to know that you gotta come correct. Like, that's why when I put out my videos and I'm like, listen, put your hair back, okay? Clean up. Like, I'm saying this, and this is coming from someone who I've had to work overtime. I've had to do more just to get the same opportunity as someone who does not have the same color skin as I do. And I'm just being quite frank. I'm being very honest and very open. And y'all know I've always kept it real. So that is our reality. But it's one of those things where it's like how I have asthma. I've grown up with asthma and I just know how to manage my asthma. Well, I've grown up a Black woman and I just know how to manage my dealings as a Black woman. It's unfortunate, but this is our reality, and we don't have to agree on everything, but racism is something that does exist. It's alive and well. Imagine this, a person who never dies. That's crazy, right? Like, you can't wrap your head around that, right? Like, this person has just been living for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You guys, that is racism. There are many people who think, oh my gosh, like, you know, it's just one of those things where we just didn't really think about it. We just like thought everything was okay. And it's so mind-blowing to me that, like, everyone's in an uproar behind George Floyd, but when we've been out here protesting and fighting before this. Like, I'm not out protesting because I have asthma and we're in a pandemic, but y'all, if anybody has been following me forever and ever, y'all know I was protesting back when we wanted justice for Jenna 6. So this goes very, very, very deep. Yes, I'm happy that people are making a change and seeing that there is something wrong after watching a video of a man having his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But this didn't happen overnight. You have to ask yourself, how did we get here and what can you do? So it's not my job to go out there and teach adults about this. Like, my platform is where I'm going to say my piece. I've been sharing things on Instagram, and I've even noticed that my Instagram stories don't get the views that they used to. That just lets me know that people aren't ready for a real conversation. People aren't ready to face this. Just because you live in a nice suburban area and, you know, it doesn't happen in your neighborhood. Honey, I live in a nice suburban area too. Ish. Okay, it's still a little hood. So I was reading this article a little while ago, and it was talking about microaggressions in the workplace. And before I go into what I'm about to tell you that happened to me on the airplane, here are a few microaggressions in the workplace that you may not even realize are microaggressions. 14 things people think are fine to say at work but are actually racist, sexist, and offensive. You're so articulate. You're transgender? Wow, you don't look like it at all. Oh, sorry, wrong person. Oh, you're gay? You should meet my friend Anne. She's gay too. My boss is crazy. Where are you actually from? The way you've overcome your disability is so inspiring. Your name is so hard to pronounce. I think you're in the wrong room. This is the programmers meeting. Do you even know what Snapchat is? Are you an intern? You look so young. Is that your real hair? Why do you even wear that? So check this out, right? As a flight attendant, I am taught to stop what I'm doing, think about what I'm about to do, and locate whatever it is I need to do. That stop, think, and locate can be applied to all situations. Stop, think about what you're about to say, locate the right words. So I want to transition to what happened to me on a flight. As you guys know, if you've been rocking with me, I like to fly day trips. I used to do a lot of layovers and I gradually grew away from that, but I grew away from that for many different reasons. One of the main reasons is I simply was not comfortable laying over in some of the cities that I laid over. And thankfully the airline that I work for does give us that option to have control over our schedule, so that I no longer have to lay over in certain places, i.e. Wisconsin, where I've experienced racism, where they've straight up said and shown that they don't want us in this town, and I'm not forced to go there. So some of the main things that I've experienced on flights is that when people are boarding, they tend to say things like, oh my God, you're so pretty. But one of the common things that I've got is, wow, she's gorgeous. I've never seen one that looks like you. So then what? I have to just smile, right? I have to be gracious. And I've said this before in my videos, but before I sign into a trip, I always remind myself I do not sleep with these people at night, and I do not wake up to these people. I have no control over what the next person says or does, but what I do have control over is me. I have control over my facial expressions, I have control over the words that I'm gonna say, and I have control over the reaction that I am going to give them. I also have to tap into my Michelle Obama, right? And I have to say, you know what? When they go low, we go high. And I have to remind myself of that, because I started flying a lot of day trips, and those day trips essentially are Florida flights, and I have experienced so much racism on those Florida flights that I could write a book. I could truly write a book. But there's so many things that I could talk about, but one thing that I want to share is, I'll never forget, I was working a flight and I was the flight leader, and one of the passengers rang her call light, and I go over and she's like, honey, come here. She's like, what's your nationality? You can't be just Negroid. I'm sorry, like, come again? She said, what's your nationality? Like, you can't be just Negroid. You look like an Indian princess or something. I promise you, ask your mother. She's gonna tell you that you've got Indian in you. You're not just Negroid. I said, ma'am, I am American. And luckily at that point, like, I had like eye contact with my colleague, and they came over. At that point, I said, you know, this is such and such. She'll be helping me up here in first class to finish the service, blah, 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 blah. And I explained to my crew member what happened, and she was like she was really fuming, but this wasn't a situation where we're going to blow up. I mean, the woman was completely out of line, but we are taught certain things, and that just quickly, especially as a flight leader, to diffuse this, I'm just going to have my co-worker continue to serve this woman for the remainder of the flight. But she didn't want anything, and I think she realized that what she said was not right, and she probably realized it when the person beside her was getting off the plane, and he was so apologetic. And actually another person that was sitting behind her wrote me a letter just telling me how great I handled it and just how amazing I was. What I gathered from that whole situation, first of all, is that I'm as fierce as I want to be. I am strong, and I will continue to be so, just because that's how I was raised. Number two is that if you see something wrong, if you see something going on in the workplace, in a store, use your voice. Of course, I understood those passengers not wanting to cause a scene, but the guy next to her, when he said what he said to me, he was very he made sure she heard him, you know, especially like he's talking to me and he's getting off, and you know, she heard him. I guess the whole point is, use your voice. Check on your black friends. That's a story that I've been keeping in for so long, social media wise. People do know about it, and you know, some people chuckle. It's one of those things where I always get people saying to me like, oh, you can't be, you know, especially on these flights, people are always, oh, what's your background? Oh, you're Native American. Like, I can never just be a black woman. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, I do the Dominican Republic flights. They're speaking to me in Spanish, and I can understand that because you do have dark-skinned Dominicans, and especially if I'm working the flight, there's already Spanish speakers on there. So if that person travels often, then they are used to having Spanish speakers on that flight. So like, I get that part. But then, you know, when I don't respond in Spanish, they be like, you know, and I'd be like, if you're a flight attendant, ask yourself, have you been on the plane with your crew and seen your colleagues experience racism? Have you spoke up? And if you have not, why not? You know, I've been having open discussions with certain flight attendants from various airlines, and you'd be amazed at how many people are actually coming forth and saying, hey, listen, I was on a flight before and I did see passengers, you know, they were being racist towards my colleagues, and I just let it go, and I didn't say anything. You know, we experience a lot on those flights, you guys. We experience everything from passengers not wanting to be served by us, but then waiting for our white colleague to come through and then asking them for water. Like, even that in itself, I'm just gonna say, like, I am very intuitive. I've said this a while ago, said it a lot actually. I can read a person, and this is a gift. I am convinced this is a gift that I have from God. I can read a person within a matter of seconds. And I know when someone wants to deal with me versus when someone doesn't want to deal with me. And you know what? I don't have control over that. But I have control over me. And I'm always going to be gracious, and I'm always going to be a ladylike. But I can't sit here and say that it's not bothersome and that it doesn't hurt. I've just been through a lot in my life, and you know, I am a very strong woman, but what keeps me up at night, what breaks my heart, is worrying about my black brothers, my black family members, my black friends. You know, I am a black woman, and I'm gonna tell y'all straight up, like, in thinking about having children and thinking about how black women are treated in the medical system, like, I'm straight up looking into a midwife. Like, you know, a black midwife, that is. When it comes to me selecting a primary care physician, I opt for a black physician. I have a black therapist. Now I'm looking for a black dentist. But my thing is that sometimes, just as black people, we do not get that same respect. I am a flight attendant, and I have the world in my hand, and I literally could travel anywhere. So many times people are like, oh, why do you guys just go to the Caribbean? Because you know what? We think about our dollar, and we think about, do we want to force our money somewhere where we're not wanted? You know, I do a lot of research too before we go somewhere. I want to know what black people's experience is like there. And we just feel the most comfortable in the Caribbean. So that's what we stick to because we love it. We're treated so wonderful. It feels like family. I'm not going to go anywhere just because it's beautiful or just because, hey, I want to say that I went there. I'm not going to force myself, my fiance, or our funds anywhere where we're not respected and treated equally. Another story time, now that I'm thinking about it. That's a whole nother thing, and I don't even know if I'm gonna make it a whole series. I just had to get on here and do this because, you know, I do have collaborations with brands and things like that that were supposed to be released by now, and I just couldn't bring myself to release those videos. My last video was released June 3rd, I believe, and that was a you can preset it as a YouTuber, so that was preset. And I just needed a break. Hopefully this video will give you guys a better understanding of why I've said the things that I've said in previous videos, why I've told you how to carry yourself as, you know, you go into these interviews and as you're meeting people, because at the end of the day, right, we are often seen as angry, we are often seen as intimidating. I always keep in mind, like, sometimes you gotta try to break those chains, you got to break those barriers, because they feel like they see one, they see all, and that is not true. In the meantime, in between time, until you guys see me again, make sure you continue to stay beautiful from the inside to the out. Let your light shine. Let nothing or no one stop you from growing, glowing, and being proud to be a Black woman, a Black man. Like, it's a great time to be Black. So let's let our light shine, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.